The dusty wind blew across the small village as Anita stood outside her tiny home, her heart pounding in her chest. Then she heard it. A loud engine. A car, a fancy black car, racing down the narrow village road. She froze. Daniel, standing beside her, stiffened. The car skidded to a stop right in front of them, sending a cloud of dust into the air. The doors swung open, and out stepped Mr. and Mrs. Williams. The people who had once thrown her away. The people who said she wasn't good enough to be their daughter. Anita's hands clenched into fists. What were they doing here? Her mother, Mrs. Williams, adjusted her expensive silk scarf and gave Anita a fake smile. "Get your things," she said. "You're coming home." Anita sat in her beautiful bedroom, staring at the big mirror in front of her. She was 21 years old, smart, and beautiful. Her long, dark hair fell over her shoulders, and her brown eyes held a deep sadness. Even though she lived in a big mansion with everything she could ever want, she always felt like something was missing. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Williams, were wealthy and respected. They gave her food, clothes, and education, but there was no love in their home. They treated her like a stranger. One evening, as Anita walked past her parents' bedroom, she heard whispers. "She is not our real daughter," her mother's voice said. Anita froze. "We have done enough for her. It's time for her to marry and leave this house," her father added. Anita's heart pounded. Her hands became cold. Adopted. She had no idea. Tears filled her eyes. She wanted to run into the room and ask them why they never told her, but she couldn't move. Her legs felt weak. That night, she cried herself to sleep. The next morning, her mother called her to the living room. Mr. and Mrs. Williams sat on the expensive white sofa, their faces serious. "We have found a husband for you," her father said. Anita's eyes widened. "What?" she asked, her voice shaking. "A man from the village. His name is Daniel," her mother said. "You will marry him next week." Anita's body shook. "Daniel? A poor man?" Tears ran down her face. "No, I don't want to marry him," she shouted. Her mother's face hardened. "You don't have a choice." Anita fell to her knees. "Please, don't do this to me," she begged. But her parents ignored her tears. "You are not really our daughter," her father said coldly. "You should be grateful we raised you. Now, you must do this for us." Anita felt like the walls were closing in. Her life was no longer her own. In just 1 week, she would be married to a man she had never met. And there was nothing she could do. The wedding happened quickly. Anita did not smile. She did not laugh. She wore a plain white dress, but her heart was full of pain. She didn't know the man standing next to her, Daniel. He was tall and dark-skinned, with kind eyes. But Anita didn't care. She only saw him as the poor man her parents had forced her to marry. After the ceremony, they traveled to the village. Anita had never been to a place like this before. The road was dusty. The houses were small. Chickens and goats walked freely on the streets. People smiled and waved at Daniel, but Anita looked away. Then they arrived at Daniel's house. It was tiny. The roof had holes. The walls had cracks. There was no electricity, only a small oil lamp glowing in the corner. "This is where you live?" Anita whispered, her voice weak. Daniel nodded. "It's not much, but it's home." Anita felt sick. She turned to him. "I can't live here," she said. "Take me back." Daniel sighed. "I know you don't want this, Anita, but I promise I will take care of you." Anita ignored him. That night, she cried on the hard bed. The mattress was thin, and she missed her soft pillows and expensive blankets. Daniel tried to make her comfortable. He brought her warm water to wash her feet. He gave her his best blanket. But Anita didn't say thank you. She refused to eat. She refused to talk. Days passed, but she did not change. She sat inside the house, doing nothing. One day, Daniel came home, sweating from work. He had been on the farm since morning, cutting wood and planting crops. He placed a small bowl of rice in front of her. "Please eat," he said gently. Anita pushed it away. "I don't want food from you." Daniel sighed but said nothing. He simply walked outside. Then, one night, Anita fell very sick. Her head burned with fever. Her body shook. She tried to stand up, but she collapsed. Daniel rushed to her side. "Anita," he called, his voice full of worry. He touched her forehead, it was hot. He ran out of the house and went to the only chemist in the village. But the medicine was too expensive. Daniel had no money. Without thinking, he sold his only cow to buy the medicine. That night, he sat beside Anita, pressing a wet cloth to her head as she slept. He did not sleep. He did not eat. He only watched over her, waiting for her to get better. And when Anita woke up the next morning and saw him holding her hand, something inside her began to change. Anita opened her eyes. For the first time in days, she felt a little better. Her body was still weak, but the burning fever was gone. She looked around and saw Daniel sitting next to her, asleep. His head rested against the wall, and his face looked tired. She blinked. Had he been watching over her all night? She moved slightly, and Daniel woke up immediately. His eyes were full of relief. "You're awake," he said with a small smile. Anita stared at him. "Did you stay here all night?" she asked softly. Daniel nodded. "I was worried." Anita did not know what to say. A few days ago, she had wished for his suffering. She had wanted him to be miserable. But now, he had saved her life. She remembered something her mother once said: "Poor people are selfish. They only think about themselves." But Daniel had sold his only cow just to buy her medicine. Was this what selfishness looked like? For the first time since coming to the village, Anita felt confused. Anita sat outside that evening, staring at the sky. The stars were bright, and the night air was cool. She could hear the sound of crickets, something she had never noticed before. Daniel sat beside her. He didn't say anything, and for once, she didn't mind. After a while, he spoke. "Back in the city, what did you like to do?" Anita thought for a moment. "I like to paint," she said. Daniel smiled. "You should start again." Anita rolled her eyes. "With what? Paint falls from the sky." Daniel laughed. It was the first time she had heard his laughter. It was warm, deep, and genuine. "I'll find a way," he said. The next morning, Daniel left early. When he returned, his hands were covered in red and brown stains. Anita frowned. "What happened to you?" Daniel grinned and showed her what he was holding, a bowl of natural paint, made from crushed flowers and clay. Anita's eyes widened. "How did you?" "I asked an old woman in the village," he said proudly. "She showed me how to make them." For the first time, Anita smiled. A real smile. Maybe, just maybe, life in the village wasn't as terrible as she thought. Days passed, and Anita began to change. She started talking to Daniel. She started helping him in small ways, passing him a cup of water when he returned from the farm, sweeping a corner of the house, arranging things neatly. One evening, as they sat outside, Daniel told her a funny story about a man in the village who mistook a goat for his wife in the dark. Anita laughed. It was soft at first, then louder. Daniel looked at her with surprise. "That's the first time you've laughed since you came here," he said. Anita covered her mouth, shocked. She didn't even realize she had laughed. From that moment, something inside her softened. And for the first time, she looked at Daniel and saw not a poor man, but a good man. Anita was inside, sweeping the small room she now called home when she heard the sound of a car engine. She froze. A car? In this village? That was rare. She dropped the broom and rushed outside. Daniel was already standing in front of the house, his arms folded, watching as a shiny black car parked in their compound. The door opened, and two well-dressed people stepped out. Anita's eyes widened. It was them. Her adoptive parents, Mr. and Mrs. Williams. Her heart started pounding. What were they doing here? Mrs. Williams walked forward, her face serious. "Anita," she said, "pack your things. We are taking you home." Anita stared. Her hands started shaking. Home? The same people who threw her away were now calling her back. "Why now?" she asked, her voice weak. Mr. Williams cleared his throat. "There's something you don't know." Anita folded her arms. "Then tell me." Mrs. Williams sighed and looked away. It was as if she didn't want to speak. Then, Mr. Williams said the words that changed everything. "You are the true heir to the Williams fortune." Anita's breath caught in her throat. "What?" She felt dizzy. Her legs felt weak. "What do you mean?" she whispered. Mrs. Williams finally spoke. Her voice was cold. "We never wanted you to have the money. So, we sent you away." Anita gasped. Tears filled her eyes. Her whole life, she thought they abandoned her because they didn't love her. But now, she realized the truth was worse. They didn't just throw her away. They stole her future. But now, Mr. Williams continued, the real owner of the wealth has died. And the inheritance, it belongs to you. Anita's head spun. Everything, the mansions, the cars, the money, it was all supposed to be hers. Her whole life, she had lived feeling unwanted, poor, struggling. And now, the same people who took her rich life away were standing in front of her, asking her to come back. Anita swallowed hard. "So, why are you here?" she asked. Mrs. Williams didn't even blink. "To take you back, of course." Anita laughed bitterly. "And what about my husband?" she asked, looking at Daniel. Mr. Williams sighed. "Forget him," he said. "You don't belong here, Anita. You belong with us." Daniel, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke. His voice was calm, but Anita could hear the pain in it. Mrs. Williams looked at Daniel like he was nothing. "She was never meant for a life like this," she said coldly. "She is coming with us." Anita felt sick. She looked at Daniel. She looked at the car. Her old life was right in front of her. Riches, comfort, everything. But beside her was Daniel. Her heart was torn. She had to choose. But what was the right choice? Anita stood still. Her heart pounded loudly in her chest. In front of her was a life of riches. Cars, houses, fancy clothes, everything she once dreamed of. Beside her was Daniel. His hands were rough from work. His clothes were old. He had nothing to give her, except love. And right now, his eyes were full of pain. Anita knew what he was thinking. She would leave him, just like everyone else had left him. Mr. Williams stepped closer. "You don't have to suffer, Anita," he said. "We can give you the life you deserve." Mrs. Williams opened the car door. "Come, my dear," she said with a smile. "No more poverty. No more struggle. Just come with us." Anita stared at the car. The rich life she had always wanted was right there. All she had to do was step inside. But then, she turned and looked at Daniel. He didn't say a word. But in his eyes, she saw everything. The love he had given her. The kindness. The sacrifices. The way he had never once made her feel unwanted. And suddenly, she understood. Love was greater than riches. Anita took a deep breath. She looked at Mr. and Mrs. Williams. Then she shook her head. No. They both froze. Mrs. Williams frowned. "What do you mean no?" Anita smiled softly. "I mean, I'm staying. With my husband." Mr. Williams's face turned red. "You're throwing away everything for a poor farmer?" Anita turned to Daniel. She gently took his hand and held it tightly. Then, she whispered the words that would stay in his heart forever. "You are my true wealth." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Mr. and Mrs. Williams gasped in shock. "You're making a mistake," Mrs. Williams snapped. "You will regret this." But Anita didn't care. She had made her choice. And for the first time in her life, she felt truly free. Mr. Williams sighed angrily. "Let's go," he muttered. They both got into the car and sped away. Anita watched them leave, but she felt no pain. She turned to Daniel and smiled. "Are you ready for our simple, happy life?" Daniel laughed and pulled her into a warm embrace. "With you by my side," he whispered, "I have everything." And as the sun set behind them, Anita knew one thing for sure. She had chosen love. And she would never regret it. The end.